Okay, so today we are now going to graph absolute value where a isn't 1 anymore. And eventually they're not going to be in our standard form either. So first what I'd like to do is just rewrite the form of a absolute value up at the top here. Okay, so we just went over that a is going to be the slope of the right-hand branch, negative a is the slope of the left-hand branch, h comma k is the vertex, right? So if I look at number 1, looks like this pretty well matches this, so I can just sort of pick out the pieces, right? So in this case, in number 1, what is a? 2. What is h? Negative 1. K is negative 3, so my vertex will be at negative 1, negative 3. Okay, so then the right-hand slope is 2, and then the left-hand would be negative 2. So this is the same thing that we did yesterday. It's just that my slope is different now. So this v is going to look a little bit different than the ones that we made yesterday. So I start off the same way with my vertex at negative 1, negative 3. So I put a dot there. But now I have a new slope to follow. So on the right-hand side, instead of going up 1 over 1, I have to go up 2 over 1. Up 2 over 1. Up 2 over 1. So then to create the left-hand side, I really just do the reverse. I go up 2, back 1, up 2, back 1. And then I'm just going to connect these dots. How is this V shape different than the ones that you saw yesterday? Right, it's more narrow, right? So what if A was 10? What would you expect it to look like? Really narrow, right? So the bigger A is, the more narrow your V shape gets. So what do we expect is going to happen in number 2? If you had to guess, it's going to be wider, right? So let's do the same thing. For number 2, A is negative half, H is positive 1, right? And then K is 2, so my vertex is at 1 comma 2, right? My right-hand slope is negative a half, and then the left-hand slope would be positive 1/2. You bet. Okay, so now I'm ready to do everything I gotta do. 1 comma 2 for my vertex. Now remember what a slope of negative 1/2 means. Down 1 to the right 2. And then the reverse for the left-hand side. And just as we suspected, this is a wider V. So some things that are helpful to note before you even start. I like to ask myself, is this V shape going to be right side up or upside down? And is it going to be wide or narrow? Okay, and I can get all of that information just from looking at A. So if you just want to note to yourself, if A is positive, it's right side up. If A is negative, it's upside down. Now, the bigger A is, what did we say is going to happen to the V shape? It's more narrow. So okay, so we just said like if A had been 10, it would be really narrow. What if A is going to be negative 10? Does that mean it's going to be really wide? No. It's just going to be upside down and narrow. So what we really want to talk about is the absolute value of A. So the absolute value of A is bigger than 1. It's going to get more and more narrow as it gets bigger, okay? So shape gets more narrow the larger the absolute value of A gets. When the absolute value of A is 1, it's just your normal B, right? Just up 1 over 1. So then, how do you get wide graphs?
It's a fraction.
Right, so I want some absolute value of A that's going to be less than 1. When that happens, then I'm going to get wider and wider and wider graphs, right? So shape gets wider the smaller absolute value of A gets. So I know if I have an absolute value of A that's less than 1, it's going to be wider than my normal graphs, the ones that we did yesterday. And if my absolute value of A is bigger than 1, it's going to be narrow. Does that make sense? Okay.